Hello friends, today I am going to talk about thoracic outlet syndrome. Thoracic cage is something like a cylindrical tube. So one side is inlet, other side should be outlet. So this should be like that. So upper end should be inside, outer end should be outlet. But diaphragmatic side rarely we get any concentric problems. So outlet syndrome is not there in the diaphragmatic part. So we consider outlet at other place. So here you can see the inlet which is bounded by the manubrium sterni first rib and cervical vertebra. So here uh, is the outlet. So this outlet boundary is totally different. Here the boundary is first 5 thoracic vertebra, first 5 rib and costo, uh, costal cartilages, manubrium sterni as well as sternum. So same place you can see surface marking. So inlet is very important. All the important structures from the head and neck go to the thorax through this. So this contains trachea, esophagus, some part of lung is also there, important vessels. So we are going to concentrate on the outlet. So through this outlet, what are things comes? Brachial plexus comes and subclavian artery and vein comes. So if any compression is there, the effect will be seen on this. So causes can be, so many causes can be there. Trauma can cause the problem here. Repetitive arm movements can cause some swelling in this area. Tumors sometime may appear. In the pregnancy, there is fluid retention that also can cause temporarily compression. Anatomical variation like cervical rib. Here cervical rib is very important. Symptoms will be depending on the compression. So whichever structure is gets compressed, symptoms will be accordingly. Most commonly, symptoms are neurogenic. So the block will be on the nerves and effect will be conveyed to the upper arm. The venous obstruction can happen as well as arterial obstruction also can happen. If there is neurogenic problem, the problem will happen according to the nerve compression. So there may be pain, there may be numbness or tingling sensation anywhere in the upper arm, upper extremity. It may be arm or it may be hand. There may be easy fatigability when people work for longer time. There may be loss of strength or loss of dexterity. If there is venous obstruction, so the venous return will be affected. So there will be congestion in the upper limb. So it will cause the swelling of the upper limb. It may cause the venous ischemic pain. The veins will get swelled and it may become easily visible. If there is arterial obstruction, all the symptoms of arterial ischemia will appear. So we know 5P of the arterial block, all those things can happen. But patient will mostly complain about the pain, which the most important. Weakness may appear. Atrophy of the muscles also may happen if it is not treated for long time. With the clinical examination, we can detect the problem. If there is arterial block, we may see the sometime gangrene of the tip of fingers. Hand will be pale, hand will be cold. If you perform the Allen test, you can find out that if specifically one arterial branch is more affected, sometimes thrombosis also can get carried away and can block the one individual branch. So with the Allen test, we can see that radial artery or ulnar artery, which one is blocked. We can do the Edson test, which is a costoclavicular compression maneuver. Here we keep on palpating on the radial artery and we tell the patient to turn on the same side of the affected area, and we tell him to take deep breath and hold for some time. So radial pulse may become absent after some time. Hyperadduction maneuver or Wright's test. This is positive when there is block due to pectoralis minor. So here we hyperabduct the hand, we keep on palpating on radial artery, and we lift the hand slowly and we go in hyperabduction. So we may get the pulse of the radial artery and it may become absent when you go in the hyperabduction. Elevated arm test. Here patient lifts the both hand and he makes the fist multiple times and he squeezes the fist. So he is doing actually the stress, he is putting the effort on the muscles, so muscle blood consumption will increase and patient will start having the feeling the pain. Hand may become pale. At the same time, if you palpate the radial artery, it may become absent. Sometime the cervical rib you can palpate also. Here the bulge is visible. You can palpate also a hard mass which is totally immobile. Investigations, we can do the nerve conduction study. Nerve the transmission will become slow if there is compression on the nerve. For the artery and vein, we can do the duplex scan. Here you can see normally we are seeing the brachial artery which is in good caliber and the velocity is good, there is no turbulence or block. X-ray we can do. In X-ray we may see the cervical rib. If cervical rib is bony, then only we can see. Sometimes it may be fibrous, that time it may not be visible. So a negative chest X-ray does not exclude the cervical rib. So there are certain types of cervical rib. 4 types are there. So type 1 to type 4. The 4 becomes complete. 1 is as small as possible. It is something like projected transverse process of the C7. In type 2, it little bit goes beyond the transverse process, but still it is not attached to the first thoracic rib. In type 3, it reaches to the thoracic rib, but the fusion is with the fibrous band. In 4, you will have the complete cervical rib. So if it is not complete, then it may not be visible in simple X-ray. That time you have to consider about the CT scan or MRI. If you are suspecting strongly the block of artery, then we can go for CT angiography. So CT angiography will show the site of block, length of block, presence of thrombus. Treatment will be directed according to the problem. If problem is not severe, then we may manage conservatively without doing surgery. So physiotherapy and painkiller we can give when there is neurogenic symptoms. If there is venous problem, we can give the thrombolytic if its condition is acute. If it is condition is chronic, we may tackle with anticoagulants. If there is arterial block, thrombolysis and anticoagulants we can try in acute symptoms. But if condition is severe, we have to go ultimately for the revascularization. So revascularization can be done in the form of decompression or it can be done as bypass. So with the decompression, everyone may not get benefit. So we have to explain to the patient that if atrophy has happened, it may not be reversible. If there is digit gangrene, it may not be reversible. So most of time for the decompression, we remove the cervical rib fully along with the periosteum. So that is called as intraperiosteal excision. If you don't remove the periosteum will start giving the forming the new bone. So again the cervical rib will get formed. So we always remove the cervical rib along with the periosteum. If muscles are bulky around, then muscle also we have to excise. So in this picture you can see that scalenus medius has been removed. Sometimes scalenus anterior also may require removal. This is surgical picture. Here first rib has been removed. Scalenus medius cut in you can see. Okay, that has been removed. So this is the nutshell about the thoracic outlet syndrome. If you want to know in detail, you have to go and read the book Bailey and Love. Usually we recommend. Thank you.